While we're on the subject of best and worst, the greens are the best thing we can eat. Anyone know what the most toxic or dangerous food or food ingredient in our current food supply is? What's the worst? Sugar's bad, but there's worse. Soda is bad, but there's worse. Coffee, yeah, a lot of coffee is bad, but there's worse. Shout it out. Salt's not good, but there's worse. Saturated fat is bad, right? Bad, but there's worse. White flour is bad, but there's worse. Corn oil is no good for you, but there's worse. This cannot be the first audience. I've been on the road 11 months. Come on. Not good. I want to break. All right. What? Plutonium. Trans fats. Hydrogenated oils. All right. Trans fats are, these toxic trans fats are found only one place in nature. Animal fats. All animal fats contain these toxic trans fats. But, thanks to better living through chemistry, the food industry found a way to synthetically create these toxic fats by hardening vegetable oil in a process called hydrogenation, which rearranges their atoms and makes them act more like animal fats. And the national, so there's, good fats, there are bad fats, then there are killer fats, and those are these trans fats. The National Academy of Science just a few months ago published this damning report on trans fats and said the only safe intake is 0. That the upper limit tolerable intake daily is 0. Now wait a second. If the National Academy of Sciences is saying the only safe intake is 0, and it's only found in animal foods and processed foods, are they telling everyone to go vegetarian? Right? That makes sense. Well, actually they didn't. So they were challenged on it, and one of the authors of the report responded to the challenge, a nutritional epidemiologist at the Harvard School of Public Health, responded to the challenge, and he said, quote, "We can't tell people to stop eating all meat and all dairy products," he said. "Well, we could tell people to become vegetarians," he added. "If we were truly basing this only on science, we would, but it is a bit extreme." Isn't that amazing? Wouldn't want scientists to base anything on science, would we? Oh. I just had to get that out. All right. What's so good about beans? A study just came out. Those who ate legumes, beans, peas, or lentils 4 times a week or more had 20% less heart disease. All right. Beans are good for your heart. The more you eat, the more. All right. Those who ate nuts at least 5 times a week had half the mortality rates, half the cardiac mortality, those who ate 5 servings of nuts or more a week. And for those of you who are like, oh, I don't want to eat nuts because they're going to make me fat. Actually, there's an impressive body of research to suggest that those people who add nuts to their diet, if anything, actually lose weight. And we're not sure why, whether it satiates the appetite or actually causes you to excrete more fat in your feces. We're not sure why. But bottom line, nuts will not make you fat. You should eat them every day. All right.
What kind of nuts?
Basically any nuts except coconuts and chestnuts. So, And peanuts, although they're technically legumes, have a nutritional profile which closely resembles other nuts. And so again, any nuts, nut butters, cashew butter, almond butter, there's some nuts that are a little better than other ones, but basically nuts are nuts, but I could go specifically down to a list of better and worse later on. Next, studies also consistently show that even health-conscious vegetarians don't eat the recommended minimum number of servings of fruits and vegetables every day, which is... Whoa, not bad, right? 5 a day, I heard 5 a day saying, 5 a day, that was a few months ago. But the front row knows, right? The National Cancer Institute just a few months upped it to 9 a day, minimum, right? 9, so you thought you weren't doing so good before, now you're really behind, right? And that's the minimum, so 9 a day, 10 a day, 12 a day, as many fruits and vegetables as you can possibly stuff in your face. All right. Next, drink lots of water. No, seriously. Seventh-day Adventist study presented to Congress last year. Vegetarian or not, those that drank 5 glasses of water every day had half the cardiac mortality, half the fatal stroke rate. What? You don't eat meat, nothing happens. If you eat some nuts, drink some water, you have your mortality rates? Absolutely amazing, right? While we're on the subject, is there anything else I can just kind of down and dirty have your mortality rate? Well, in the German vegan study, for example, they found out that those who were, quote unquote, who, surprise, surprise, physically active, had half the mortality rates of those couch potatoes or computer potatoes or whatever the case may be. And maybe get your cholesterol checked. Who knows what your cholesterol is? Oh, everybody should know what their cholesterol is. The current recommendation is everyone starting at age 20 should get their cholesterol checked and get it rechecked every 5 years. And quit smoking. Cigarettes slice at least like 8 years off your life. All right, last but not least, Z is for zinc. I didn't mention anything specifically about zinc on there because, once again, greens, beans, nuts, and whole grains to the rescue. Vegetarians, though, are prone to low-body zinc pools, however. Inadequate zinc intake can impair one's immunity, impair one's taste sensation, and impair one's appetite. Serious deficiency can lead to growth stunting or small testicles. No one's actually gone around and measured the size of vegetarian testicles, but there was a taste acuity study that found that vegetarians couldn't taste as well as meat eaters. Now, I've kissed a few, and I think vegetarians taste pretty good. But, no, indeed, we should think about zinc. And while I'm being risque, especially men, since we lose like 20% of our RDA for zinc in every seminal emission, that's a good half cup of nuts right there. So, I'm serious. Beans, particularly sprouted or fermented, like tempeh and miso. Nuts and seeds, again, dry roasted or sprouted, are good sources. And again, fortified breakfast cereals may come in handy here as well. All right. My final words. When I first learned about this stuff, my first thought was like, it just doesn't seem natural, right? All these pills and weird oils and stuff. I mean, like when human beings were evolving, they didn't take no calcium supplements, right? Well, then I looked at that. I mean, they certainly weren't getting it from milk. Prehistoric peoples got all the calcium they needed from eating wild plants like nettles, which are just loaded with calcium. It's estimated that prehistoric peoples got 2,000 milligrams of calcium every single day eating wild plants, right? That's 3 times what milk drinkers get in this country, right? But we just don't eat those kind of plants anymore because of the way we live in our modern world, right? And cavemans didn't have to take no flax, right? Well, again, that's because their ratio was 1-to-1. There's no such thing as trans fats, no such thing as cottonseed oil, right? And, interestingly, many of the wild plants have higher omega-3 contents than the cultivated ones. So, for example, purslane, the most common plant in the world, is dug up here as a weed, but everywhere else they eat it because it's so good for you, is one of the highest plant omega-3 contents in the world. But we don't eat weeds anymore. We eat iceberg lettuce, right? And they didn't have to take no vitamin D. That's because they lived and worked outside. That's because they could work outside because there wasn't a big hole in the ozone layer. There weren't these smog-ridden cities and all that, And they didn't have to take no B12. We used to be able to get all the B12 we needed from the water we drank. Drinking out of a mountain stream or well water, But we don't get a lot of B12 anymore in our water because we chlorinate our water supply to kill off all the bacteria, right? So we don't get a lot of vitamin B12 in our water anymore. We don't get a lot of cholera either, right? So that's a good thing, right? But the bottom line is that we live in an unnatural world, which is compromising our health, compromising our vegetarian potential. But we can reclaim that potential with but a few simple changes and live a long life in optimum health. Thank you.